Yo, what's up, everyone? Thank you for joining me. Second live stream of the week. So I'm going to be on every Wednesday and every Monday as a reminder at the exact same time. So welcome back, Coin Bureau trading family. Today, got a lot to cover. I want to jump straight into Bitcoin. That's sort of the whole purpose of tonight's stream is I really want to deep dive Bitcoin. I want to show you guys sort of where I came up with my analysis, how I sort of was able to sort of get to the top of the range of that 126K, bring it all the way to where we are now, the current target. And I want to show you guys the couple of the key levels that I'm watching right now. There's two particular levels that are really on my core focus of where we're at. So I want to dive into those, show you guys exactly what I'm looking at. I'm going to revisit some of the stuff I spoke about on Monday as well, show you some of the trades that I'm actually in at the moment, what I'm thinking of doing over the next couple of hours, especially as the US market opens. But thank you all for joining. First things first, as always, can you please smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't as well. It does help the channel. Obviously, this channel is growing quite rapidly, so it's absolutely awesome. So thank you so much for all the support. But without further ado, I do want to get straight into it because things are heating up. I mean, we're seeing swings in the market right now. I mean, over the last 4 hours, this one candle has moved $1,500 from everything being in the green to everything being in the red. I feel like that has been the narrative for basically since Monday. I've been in a couple of positions and these positions have gone up, 20, 30% on 10X, back into negative 20%, up again into 20%. And I've just sort of left them there because I'm like, I've got this strong bias at the moment of where I think these altcoins may potentially move. But I'm going to just monitor them for the time being. I want to see how the US market opens tonight. That is the big factor for me. The US market opening tonight after negotiations and things have sort of stepped down from the US and Iran with their conversations that took place over the last couple of days. That's sort of been put to bed. They're trying to do a deal. Obviously, we want a deal to go through. I personally do anyway. I don't want to see war. But if we can get some stability now in the markets, that'll be fantastic. And I want to show you guys how the global markets are playing into this factor of Bitcoin. And again, I can only make it true that this is my opinion. This is not financial advice by any means. So without saying that, let's kick it off. Disclaimer first off the bat, guys, everything I share is of my own personal opinion. It is all educational focused. It's not to be classified as financial advice whatsoever. So guys, let's jump into it. Let me just share screen. Let me move this around. It's always fun doing it live because I've got to move things around. So give me one moment. Where are we? Add to not that one. There, present. Here we go. Share screen. So first things first, you guys should be able to see my screen now coming through. You guys are on my other monitor, so I've got some comments going in there. Welcome, everyone. Thank you. Someone said, can you go through Sol? I've got a trade on Sol at the moment, so I'll show you guys what that is shortly. But that should all be coming through now. So I've got two particular charts that I want to show you guys on Bitcoin. And one is running from the trend up. One is going to be running from the trend down, both utilizing the factor of trend-based fibs. Going back to what I said on Monday, guys, I'm heavy Fibonacci-based trader. Absolutely love it. It makes charts nice, clean, easy to read, predicts levels for me, allows me to predict where I think the market will potentially move to, especially if it's in an uptrend. Like my next target for Bitcoin, before anyone screams like 250K Bitcoin, first things first, in my opinion, we still need to get past 144 as the key target for me. So we'll park 250K Bitcoin for the time being. But I want to sort of focus, before I've got these two charts I'm going to take you guys through. This one here, we're running from the bottom of the original range here was around 15,000 to the top of this peak around 70 and then back down. And right now, basically, when we look at Bitcoin, and this is on the weekly time frame, we zoom out. And across this entire range, this is where price is essentially trapped between now, right here. I'm looking at this range, which is 71,500 roughly, and 62,910. So essentially, price is now trapped within this range and needs to make its decision on whether or not it gets back above this point here, 71,000, or we come back and we test those lows around the $62,000, $63,000 mark. So I'm going to dive deeper into this when we go into the daily time frame, but it's sort of the one avenue that a lot of people aren't realizing is we're sort of chopping sideways, but we're also slightly dripping down over the weekly time frame as well over the course of this week. So I want to show you guys what it looks like on the daily, because at the moment we're sort of just stuck. You can see one big green candle straight to the top and comes down. And at the moment, all we're seeing is just this choppy range. And what people are getting caught up with at the moment, I know myself, when I look at this, is these order zones are live data. It shows live transactional data on how many Bitcoin are being purchased and sold at those particular levels. And you can see right now the data is telling us there is indecision within the market. And it's a large range. It's about 7% in total in which that range actually is. So if you're looking at this, price is constantly bouncing off around the $65,700 mark, all the way up to 70,500. So 1 minute people are in profit, next minute they're not in profit. And if you're feeling that right now, you're feeling frustrated with the market, you're not alone, right? A lot of people are in the same position at the moment. They're like, can something just happen? Can something move, please? All I'm saying right now is positions go up and positions go down. And that comes with the disciplinary factor of trading. You can't just be in a position all the time that's going to be the best position, and it's not going to be something that, you know what, it's just going to make me money every single week. Sometimes the market is going to be in a position where it's slow to move. And it's currently where I think things are at over the last couple of days. Like I said on Monday, I didn't expect much volatility this week, right? Especially in the first 3 days, because there wasn't much news announcements. The US was closed on Monday, and now we're sort of coming into the back end of the week where we've got some data sets that are going to come out. So tonight there's unemployment claims. Tomorrow I'm pretty sure it's PCE data as well. So that's another thing we're going to be watching. But I want to show you guys, again, how this also correlates very closely. One of the main things I follow from a correlation standpoint with the markets is the SPX, the US 500, right? I like to see how that is moving in comparison to Bitcoin itself. A lot of people use the NASDAQ. I personally like to use the US 500. So I want to show you guys what that is as well. But you can see the amount of indecision within the market at the moment, it's evident. So don't feel like, hey, I'm stuck. You're not personally stuck. Bitcoin, realistically, it's just been chopping within this range, and that's what's causing people to be in and out of profit so rapidly. I mean, me personally, I love to leave my trade on whilst I sleep. I had this position go in, like I said, plus 30%, minus 20%, plus 30%, minus 20%. And like I said, I'm trading leverage a lot. So a lot of my positions are on 10x leverage. But this is where I'm watching for Bitcoin at the moment, because there's two things that I see going to happen right now. It's A, we come down and we spike the bottom of the range, which is around that $63,000 mark. However, if we can break out above 71,000, there is a large CME gap sitting around this point here, around the 83, I think it is, $83,000 mark to be exact. You guys can go back and have a look at it. Use indicator tools. It's so easy. Put CME gap on. It is so simple. You just whack this on. You don't need to use a special one. And there it is there. You can see the CME gap between 83 and roughly 78,000. So that's sort of where I'm thinking price will target at a particular point. I mean, don't quote me directly on the number, but a large percentage of CME gaps get filled. And right now we are completely oversold. So overall, I am watching this range, because if we can bounce back above that 71, 72K zone that is sitting here, then it gives a really good opportunity, in my opinion, to come up and target that $80,000 range. So zooming back out on this, before I jump onto my other Bitcoin chart, the weekly, it's very simple. When you sort of start to zoom out, you can see the zones quite easy. You don't get trapped and sort of hyper-focused in these small percentage moves, right? Remembering the fact that this range on Bitcoin as a whole, it's 13% from the downside up, or 11.5%, 12% to the downside. So watching this range at the moment is critical for me, and that's particularly what I am concerned with versus everything else. Now, I want to show you guys why this range here for me was the key target and how I got to that potential point. Now, two ways in total. There is one, you can see here we had this what's called a mega microphone pattern breakdown and target directly to where we are today. And if you look into this, I prepared this earlier for you all, but I'll show you the image here. And we'll just get rid of that CME gap. We don't need that there anymore. So give me 1 second. I'll remove that as well. Now, there's an image that I did put on this chart just to show you guys. So I wanted to bring that over and just give you a bit of an analysis update on the way I sort of use this to predict where we will go into. So if you zoom out on this front, let me just drag this over. It's called the megaphone pattern. It's one of the favorites. You get these large volatility swings. Liquidity starts to get thinning within the market. So candles move really, 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 really quickly. And then you get this large breakdown. You can see on this factor here, right? You've got wave 1, 2, sorry, in this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you get this little change in market structure. Now, on the daily time frame, it doesn't look like it happened. Let me show you this on the 4-hour. Take note of that because it's going to move when I change it to the 4-hour time frame. To an absolute T, you've got the full wave count. You've got the little spike into the resistance point, and then absolute mayhem crashed after that. So in that whole entire situation, there's no point in where I was looking for longs, we're going to bounce off that trend. I'm looking at this pattern and going, hey, this thing's going to come true. And very well so, it did. So guys, that's how I got to that point there. I want to show you guys now while I'm looking at this from a downtrend perspective and particularly what that is looking for. Because as it stands at the moment, like I said, I'm just watching the middle of this range. I want to see where price eventually moves towards. I do have a bit of a bias. I won't lie, to a bit of a more long position for the current time being into this US section. I'll tell you guys why in a moment, so make sure you're following. And if you've got questions, whack them in the chat as well. I love to see what the chat says. I love to see the comments. A lot of people sort of go back and forth with analysis. Some people, not everyone's going to agree with what your analysis is saying. But guys, this is what I love. This is what I've done. This is what's made me successful at trading. And this is what I've sort of been brought on to do, to share with you guys the analysis of what I like to go through. And look, it's not as simple as what everyone's sort of used to, very basic support resistance stuff. I love to use order zones and I love to use fibs because it allows me to predict particular price action. So showing you guys my other Bitcoin chart. This is the one that sort of is very similar, but it's coming from a downwards aspect. And what I mean by that is, in this entire situation, I've been running this bear flag right here. You can see that take effect there on the weekly time frame. It's very, very clear, very, very evident, right? It's bounced off the 50 EMA, which was sitting at the 98K zone. And then from there, my mass capitulation target for Bitcoin, if people don't think the market has capitulated yet, is sitting around that 50K zone. It lines up with the target of the bear flag. It also lines up with the target of the trend-based fib ratio, which typically loves to target the 1. So basically, from this move all the way down, lines up very closely with the 1 ratio. Now, the situation I'm sort of conflicted with at the moment is, obviously you can see from my analysis on the previous chart, I do think we're going to come back and revisit that CME gap, which is again sitting around that $80,000 mark. So in my eyes at the moment, I'm not expecting us to just do this big flash crash straight into 50K. I do expect us at some stage, or Bitcoin in particular, to come back up and retest this zone that it's never retested. It sort of just fell straight through. We saw that happen. And then I do expect at some stage for us to come back and reclaim or have an attempt at that $50,000 zone, which lines up with one of the biggest order zones on the weekly time frame, the indicator that I use. So large buying pressure, I assume, would come in at that point. That's what I'm sort of watching for. But again, my analysis may not agree with your analysis, but that's what I'm looking at. And I looked at 68K as the original target. That was hit from that downturn, again, based off my previous chart and this one, and the 200 EMA that is sitting here. So overall, if I had to wrap up what I see Bitcoin looking at is, again, back down to that 60K zone. Ultimately, we've got to break above 71,000 so then we can get the retest further up towards that $80-ish thousand zone. So basically, those are the two things that I'm looking at the moment. In the interim, whilst that is taking effect, we're basically just going sideways like we spoke about. So there's no point in me saying, hey, you know what? I expect we're just going to break down straight away, because reality is the market is trending sideways for the time being. You can see that very, very clearly by just simply putting 2 lines, looking at those 2 order zones, and you can see the market is essentially trapped within that point. So in any situation with any of these big sessions that are coming in from the US, I want to either see price break above this point around 71,000 or break below 65,000. And then from 65,000, I'll be targeting 61. And from 70, I'll be targeting 75, and then so forth. I like to take it in increments. Now, I want to show you guys something because I think this gets very much overlooked from crypto traders as a whole. But one of the big ones that I love to focus on is this. Now, I'm not going to give you any advice on the US stock market whatsoever. Let me make that very, very clear. But if you go back and look at this over the course of history, all right, you can see that when we've had large runs within crypto, within Bitcoin itself, right, you can see Black Thursday, which was the COVID event. Boom, then Bitcoin ran alongside this. October 22, bull market. Boom, Bitcoin ran alongside this. October 23, bang, Bitcoin ran alongside this. April 2025, Bitcoin ran alongside this as well. And I want to put something into perspective just to show you guys. When we had that October 10th dump on crypto where Bitcoin dropped 20%, the US stock market dropped a 4% candle in basically one hit. So you can see that the correlation is quite strong between the two. And if you bring it into the current price action of where we're at the moment, you can see we're getting that sideways action on Bitcoin at the moment. Look what else is going sideways. The US 500 is also moving sideways. There's a lot of indecision at play. It's at a key fib level, which it was expected to reject at. I was looking at that as a rejection point. And the same thing is happening on Bitcoin. We're basically just going sideways. So the correlation between these two is quite strong, in my opinion. It's what I use as well as a point of reference. I'm seeing early buying activity in the intraday markets, the futures markets that are not within the US timeframe. So this is why I'm a little bit optimistic tonight that we should hopefully, I want to see a pump on the market, push those altcoins into some long positions. But look, we've got to wait and see what the US does today. Now, that's sort of what I wanted to frame on Bitcoin. I'm going to hang around for another probably 5-7 minutes. I want to cover some of the alts that I went through on Monday because I am in a couple of positions. I'll show you guys what those positions are live. I have no problem doing that. Before I do that, if you haven't yet, smash the like button, comment, let me know what you're thinking. I take nothing to heart. So if you've got some comments, whack them in there. Equally, if you're enjoying this, I want to hear that as well. And you can see my socials down below. So if you're not following me yet, make sure you follow on because I do post a lot of updates during the week. I post a lot of charts on X now, which I never historically did. And that way we can sort of keep in touch. It's always the best way. So let me go over, let me move my screen. I want to check comments, what's going on here. With, I love it, Will Liberty Financial has finally jumped off the bottom and everyone is talking about it. It's finally put in a 14% move. I just got to jump on this one quickly. Guys, this one here cracks me up because this was the Trump saver coin, right? Everyone was, this thing's going to change the game. And from the all-time high, tanked basically 83%. Now, all of a sudden, we've seen a 14% candle today on World Liberty Financial. I haven't looked into the news, anything like that on this coin. I basically writ this coin off completely for the time being. Again, I don't need to trade everything in the market to be a trader, but I love it. This thing has all of a sudden ripped a 14% candle. X has lit up and DMs have lit up and everyone is like, what is happening in the World Liberty Financial? Guys, just be mindful. When tokens like altcoins are bubbling away at the bottom, especially in situations like this, take note. You've got this consolidation occurring where price is essentially moving sideways. It means basically accumulation down at the bottom of the range. Eventually you get a breakout to the top. Now, am I going to FOMO into this and buy while it's absolutely pumped? Definitely not. Why? The CCI has pumped off at around 250. It's completely overpurchased. From a technical basis, my general rule of thumb would be waiting for this to come back and then look for a move off the particular retest after we confirm the official breakout. I never like to chase green candles. I'm never going to chase green candles, and that comes with the discipline action of trading because I'm not going to FOMO into this, and it's already moved 15%. I'm going to wait for a pullback and get some confirmation before anything else. Now, Couple of trades that I'm looking at the moment. Still, I'm looking at Link. It is still the one that I'm eyeing off, particularly, again, off the bottom of this 113 Fibonacci range. I do have a couple of lines in here. They're just measuring the fib levels. It's not like rocket science, right? I can remove them all if it makes it easier for everyone to look at. But I'm looking at this particular range. It's about a 25% move. Again, price really does need to pick up off this level. If not, I do see this dropping quite rapidly as well, back into like the $7 mark. But that's what I'm looking at the moment. Hype is the other one. Hype is an interesting one for me because on the weekly time frame, it closed above the 50 EMA. And from the daily perspective, it's coming back to the point in which it's going back into the oversold area on the CCI. So I do expect price to pick up off this level. I am currently in a trade on Hype. I am currently in a trade on Link and Solana. Again, these trades have been in profit, out of profit, in profit, out of profit consistently over the last 3 days. Basically since, I would say, late Monday night when I think I first entered them. But I'm just letting them sort of do their thing. Again, you've got to stick to some conviction. I've got my confirmations. I've got my targets I want to play. If the US market doesn't start to pick up, especially with Bitcoin, then I'll reevaluate. But at the same time, that's trading. You're going to get some right, you're going to get some wrong. And that's sort of the art of it all. The best thing is about managing your risk. So I'm still watching this part here on Hype. And Solana is the fun one. So this is one that I'm quite interested in at the moment. I'm going to zoom in here on the 4-hour time frame because I was looking at this point here over the last 24 hours on Solana, and we're starting to get entries coming off the bottom of the range here, the fib level, $83, 82-ish, and then getting the price was starting to spike. But as soon as Bitcoin flips and drops a candle, this thing reacts so fast and it's moving so quickly. I mean, Solana typically was a bit more stable than what I personally remember. But at the moment, you can see just how easy the candle has flipped. Bang, 3.5%, 4% nearly in the matter of 4 hours, the moment Bitcoin just swang. Whereas you've got like coins like Link that is holding up a lot better. So again, I am in Solana as well. I'm not deep in a position. I can show you guys at the moment. They're like 24%, 3%, 11%. It's not a big deal. These are like very small positions for me. I can average in additional entries if I want to. Again, these have been in and out of profit this entire time. So I'm just waiting these ones out. And I want to see where they land essentially over the next 24 hours. So guys, that's sort of 23-minute mark. If anyone's got any questions, drop them there because this is what it's all about. I love to sort of get in, break down some analysis. I did have requests after my last stream, and I'm just going to minimize my screen for the time being. But I did have requests after my last stream to come in and share some strategies, share some of my daily routines and my analysis. So I'm thinking come Monday, I'll jump into the markets. I'll give you guys a weekly update like I did on Monday. That's sort of going to be my motive. Monday, come in, look at the news, what's happening for the week, what's going to be breaking down and how we can sort of structure ourselves out for the week. I'm going to set some alerts up, look at some altcoins, etc. I'm not someone that's going to go through there and look at some massive DGen coins and things like that. If you've got some to look at, sure. But I love to sort of stick within the top 100, trade some really good price action, have a look at what the overall market is doing. How is that going to correlate for the week and sort of set myself up? It makes things a lot easier to manage and you don't have to be in front of the screen 24/7. And then on Wednesday, we'll revisit those. We'll go through some more trades. We'll see how the market's tracking. And ultimately, happy to put together some content for you guys where you can actually see how I sort of conduct my day. But there's a couple of charts that I do use from a correlation standpoint. I'm very big on market correlation. So I look at things like the total, the US 500, USDT dominance, that sort of stuff. I'll put that together for you guys so you can see exactly how I do that. And again, we're all one team, one dream. We all work together. That's my motto. So if you need anything, reach out. Hit me up in my socials. Make sure you like it. Make sure you share this stream as well because this one here, we want to blow up. We want to get it to a point. You know, we've got hundreds of people in here. We're going through a whole bunch of charts, all working together. And again, you guys can share what you want me to see and we can start to build these out longer and longer. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope you all have an awesome day. Do I use Elliott Waves? Kanga Matt, mate, Brett Thompson, sorry. I saw that comment around Kangamat. I absolutely cracked up laughing. I dropped it to my team and I thought that is an absolute classic. So that was good, mate. Thank you very much for that one. Personally, dude, I don't use Elliott waves. I'll be very transparent as to why I don't. I know some people that are very successful with them. So I'm not someone that's going to hate on anyone's particular analysis. I just prefer, in my opinion, to use things like order zones, live data, big liquidity zones, big support levels and resistance points, because I tend to see that's where price directs itself to either sweep the lows or sweep the highs. Now, the problem I have with Elliott waves is it's very subjective in the way that by the time they actually play out, you've sort of missed a lot of the moves. And look, that's just my particular opinion. You also got to take into consideration there's so many different subjective, impulsive waves and corrective waves and so forth and things like that. And don't get me wrong, with trading, you've got to look at both sides of the coin. I just find personally for me, they don't work as well for my trading style. So I've sort of steered away from them completely. I understand how they work and I understand how to use them. But I really do love my order zones and my price data, liquidity, that sort of thing that helps me to direct my traffic on where I want to move and where I want to look for potential entries, especially if I'm looking at entries on longer time frame plays. I want to get off those big levels of support or resistance to sort of hold my positions for longer and equally have a better risk to reward ratio than sort of trying to trade those middle of the ranges as well. But love it. Thanks for the question, dude. So guys, wrap it up there, 26 minutes. I want to keep these under half an hour for the time being. Once we get more people in, so make sure you're sharing it. We can go longer. We can dive into more charts. You guys can post some comments on what you want to see and we'll go from there. So everyone, have an awesome week. Smash it and all the best.